Hello there and welcome to another Bobeats video, and today we are checking out the new LOFI-12 XT from Sonicware.
One.
As the name suggests, it's a lo-fi sampler and Groovebox that takes a lot of the DNA from the LOFI-12 that Sonicware released a while back and puts it in the form factor of the sample track. And since I wasn't the biggest fan of the sample track, but I am a really big fan of the LOFI-12, I thought that maybe, just maybe, this could be a perfect combination of the two. But you'll have to wait until the end of the video to get the answer to that question. So what is the LOFI-12 XT? Well, it's an 8-track lo-fi sampler and Groovebox. It samples in mono, 12 or 24 kilohertz, so it has this lo-fi sound to it. Playback samples monophonically, but also polyphonically, up to 20 notes of polyphony. You have 64 megabytes of sample memory per project. You can power it with a power adapter or with AA batteries. It has a built-in microphone, which is nothing to write home about, and it has a built-in speaker, which you rarely will use unless you totally forgot to bring headphones. The LOFI-12 XT also has resampling, so you can sample what's going on the device. There's also a background mixdown feature that records what's going on the device, but it was not entirely stable when I was testing it. And there's also a basic but easy to use song mode which chains patterns together. So we're starting out here, press pattern and just select an empty one. We see here that the 8 tracks here, they are empty, they're gray, so we press track number 1 here and we press sound. So these buttons here access different pages, like for example filter, where you can set up a filter, a low-pass filter for example, mod for modulation. We have the amp, where amp envelope is located and sends are located. Then we have the EFX, which is an insert effects, 1 per track. And then we have the settings for the reverb and delay. These are not per track, but rather send effects. So we go to basically sound, and here we have a list of samples. See here we have a little synth sound. Now we can create a little melody out of that if we want to. So how do you do that? Well, you can either step record, just basically press record here and we can put down notes. If you want to, we can also clear them. So press pad. We get chromatic sample playback and we can play chords. So I'm going to press this button here to check the tempo. 120 is too much for me. Let's go 105. You can set swing. You can also set pre-count and metronome. So let's turn on the metronome for now. I love pre-count. I'm so glad that they've included it. Now if we go to sound, we can change between poly, slice, so basically slicing up a sample, and well, yeah, we'll get to that, and then mono. And you can also turn on and off the 8-bit mode. That basically reduces the bit rate, making it a bit more, I don't know, gnarly, a bit more retro sounding. So let's go poly and turn on pad. While in pad mode, you can move up and down here, as you can see, but there's no quick way to change octave, which I think is weird. I think like function and this button here should just let me go 1 octave up and down, but I mean, I can live with it. We can play a little ARP, but I'm not sure I'm feeling that. So let's go back to sound. Let's turn off the arpeggiator. Before I can record something, let's go to config, and we change the length here to 64 steps. You can also change the note resolution. You can also change the transposition, so you can transpose the sequence, and you can also set the choke group. Now let's go pad mode and let's record. So we got a little sequence going, nothing fancy. We can turn off the metronome because it's a little annoying. We can also go in here into config and just press it again. And now we can change the quantization. And I actually really like this. I love products where you can just record into the sequencer and then you don't have to like destructively quantize, but you rather just set a level of quantization here until we find something that we think sounds good. We can actually introduce some swing as well. So with track number 2, sound, let's find kick that we like, snare of sorts. Press record here to put down some steps. I'm just gonna feel my way here, see whatever feels good. I went with a very typical beat here just to show you. So we can go to the first sound. If you want to change sounds without triggering the sound, just hold function here, track number 1, and we're going to go to amp, second page, just press it again, and then turn up the reverb send. Delay, and we can go here, the reverb. First, let's turn on BPM sync for the delay. Let's tweak it till we find something that we like. Let's add some width, or a lot of it. And go to reverb, turn down pre-delay, up decay. Okay, I really like that. Unfortunately, there is no undo, so if you mess it up, you basically have to redo it and do it all over again, and I'm not too happy with that. I guess a way you could do it is just, you could go here and you can save the pattern and then reload the pattern. So from the pattern menu, if we press function, we press save, we can just press OK. So now it's saved, and we can go here and go reload, so it reloads the state. So that's a quick way to just save a state. I don't think there's any other undo function. So something like that maybe. So that sounds pretty good. So let's hit function save here. And now we can take a little look at some other things. So we have filter. So like I said earlier, we have different filter types. You see a representation here. So we have a high pass, we have band pass, and the filter actually sounds a bit better than on previous Sonicware products as well. This is something that I've critiqued in previous videos. It had this, I don't know, kind of an aggressive sound to it. It wasn't that sweet sounding. I think that this is a bit smoother. I think they've tweaked it a bit. I like it a lot more. And we also, if we press it again, we have a filter envelope. So ASR, attack, sustain, release, or if we switch it over, we can go here to an AR, so just attack, release envelope. And you can also invert it. So we have an inverted envelope over here. And if we go to mod here, you can see we have an LFO, also with a nice graphical representation. I really like this on products where you can actually see what's going on. So if I speed it up, you can see that there's a change happening over here. And also if we change the depth here, you can see it's changing. So you can see how much it affects the target parameter. So we can set it up to filter frequency because we're kind of traditional, gonna turn down the rates here and just have a listen. So if we turn up the depth, it sounds crazy. Let's turn down the depth. And we can now also go to mod here, press it again. We go to second LFO. I'm going to set that up to affect, let me just see here, affect pitch. So it's going to sound wonky at first, but trust me, it's going to sound pretty cool. Okay, let's go. But yeah, I'm going to turn down the rate, or sorry, up the rate. And down the depth. So just a bit. We need a bass. We need a bass here. So let's go here, sound, select the new sound here. And we can just put down a few notes like so. Next up, let me add a hi-hat here. And I want to show you that you can actually sound lock. So just here in the sequencer view here, we just hold down, turn the knob, and now we've changed the sample slot here. So I'm not entirely sure how this is gonna sound. So kind of like it. Just gonna tone down the level. Now we can add a clap. Let's put down 2 steps like so. And if you want to, you can just go here to config, and we can hold down function while turning here. This lengthens the patterns, but also copies over, so the data is copied over. So we are on the first page, you can actually see it up here in the menu, so we're moving between pages, and I can just rearrange a bit. Now if I want to change, for example, the micro timing of this clap here, just press function and the step, and now I get the data for the steps. So here we have the note value and velocity, for example, and now we can change the timing, yeah, like so. So something you can also do is record automation. So we have our synth here, and if we want to record some sort of change, we basically just turn the knobs and record them. And now, if I'm not mistaken, I should be able to just hold down a step here, and you can see, just like on the Electron gear, we are changing the value per step here. And of course, filter can be automated. So what else is there? Well, under amp here, we have attack, we have the release here, we have the sends. That's pretty much it. If you press here, or if you press again, you can get the send level. And then we have the EFX, which is basically an insert effect per track. So you can have type here. You can see we have multiple different ones. They're very similar to what you find on other Sonicware gear. They sound okay, but they're kind of lo-fi. I think in general, the engines that Sonicware uses for a lot of their Grooveboxes and synths are kind of lo-fi sounding, which is something you either kind of gravitate towards and like, or it's something that's not for you. And under reverb, we have settings for delay, and we also have settings for reverb. Oh, and not to forget, under mix here, we also have one master effect. So if I press mix here and I press MFX type, we can set either a filter, or we can change it to a compressor. It's gonna sound wonky because we haven't set anything up, but the whole idea is that we have it for sidechaining. So we have kick here on number 2, so using the kick as source, and then we just select the target. So something like this, and it's a bit exaggerated just so you can hear it. Oh, and an important thing, if you want to save, not only save the pattern like so, also save the project. And this takes a little longer time, so save yes. So if we go to track number 7 under sound, we have all of these samples, but how did they get there? This is basically the list of samples that we have. We also have it over here, so function and project, I believe, and then we have sample slots. So So here are all the slots. Now what we can do is we can just press this button here and we can browse. So here's a very nice browser also with tags. I'm not going to go too in-depth on how to set this up. There will be a more in-depth tutorial if you really want to know that. But basically, you can save tags with samples, even samples you've sampled yourself. So if I want that synth sound, just press here. You can see the little row there, all changes, and we can use multiple tags. So we can also preview. Ooh, I don't know what's going on there, but let's go with this. So let me load this sound here. So you just press load, and now it's loaded into a slot. And I think it was sidechain, and I thought that sounded pretty cool. Let's set up an LFO here. I don't know, can we do to pitch? So LFO number 2 here, I'm gonna set that up to be the LFO rate, let's see here, of LFO number 1. We have one last track, let me see if we can find something for that. And with just some LFO to pitch and a tremolo as insert effect, we made a little variation here to the pattern. I muted track number 1, the synth sound, and it sounds like this. Now I do have a bit more to share about the synth here, but first a quick word from today's sponsor, DistroKid. Releasing your music shouldn't be difficult, and using DistroKid is super easy and is a fast and reliable way of getting your tracks onto Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, and other relevant stores. And one thing that I really like is that you pay once a year and then you can upload unlimited amounts of music. One feature that I really like is the hyperfollow feature. So when you've uploaded your music, you get a custom page. DistroKid does this automatically. On that page are links to where people can find your music in different stores. You can just share that one link instead of sharing like multiple links to different stores. So it's just a place where everything's gathered. So if you want to go and check out DistroKid, use my link in the description. You not only support my channel, but you also get a discount. So go and check it out. So I brought out a cup of coffee. Of course, I'm putting it next to the gear to give everyone some anxiety. And we brought out the trusted Pulsar 23. And if you're wondering why it's filled with clothes, believe it or not, it was a purely accidental advertisement of my merch. You can check it out, link below. I think my wife put them in here while we were moving the synths. So sampling is pretty straightforward. You just press function, sampling, you go into the sample menu. There you can select whether to sample from the inputs, from the microphone, from the USB. You can also resample. Then we just press a slot here that we want to sample into. And now I press record and then just press record again. And now we're going to set it from poly to slice. And now we can press the slice button and we can put down slice markers like so. And this is non-destructive editing. And as you can see here, we can zoom into the waveform. And if we press the pads, you can see we're jumping around. We are playing back different slices. And we can zoom in here and we can move slice number 1 here. Go to slice number 2 and move that. And I haven't practiced. This is actually quite smooth. And there's also an automatic slice modes that detects transients in the loop. So next up, I want to sample the bass here. So we basically press function, sampling, press the track, press sampling again. And from here we can change the start and end point of the sample. And since the sound is in poly mode, we can press pad and play it. And the bass line. So sampling on the LOFI-12 XT is very simple. It's not the most advanced, it doesn't have any time stretching, there's no multi-sampling for example, so there's really not that many advanced sampling features. This is more of a fun Groovebox that you can take with you, sample some stuff, make some lo-fi beats on. And personally I think that that's good enough. The comparison should of course be the LOFI-12 from Sonicware, KO2 from Teenage Engineering, Circuit Rhythm comes to mind, but it shouldn't be compared against say the MPC or the Machina. Those are fully fledged workstations, and if that's something you want, go in that direction instead. And this device does have a song mode, so you hit function and copy here to go to song mode. We can go into menu of that song and we can go edit, and here you can see on the screen first it says pattern number 1, and we can insert pattern, I don't know, number 4. We can set different BPMs here per pattern, so let's do this one at 105. Let's see if we can insert one between here. So the first one is pattern 2, then pattern 3, and then pattern 4, and we hit OK and play, I think. So now it's going to go through pattern 2, and then pattern 3, and then pattern 4. And pattern 4 should be a higher BPM. I did notice, however, that there was sometimes an audible click when moving between patterns, and that's probably because the sample isn't being cut off at 0, so some sort of sound is lingering, it's being cut off, not at 0, creating this click sound. And I think that Sonicware, if possible, that would be something I'd look at, just having, I don't know, some way of like fading out the samples when you're in song mode between the patterns, making sure that they don't click. I also want to show you that under config here, we have different sequencer modes. So we have normal, and that just plays the pattern from start to finish. And then we have stutter, which lets you hold down a step, and it repeats. And you can do multiple steps as well, which is kind of cool. And there's also the random mode, which lets you set a step interval, so 1 up till 16, and it basically creates a window, so a window of either 1 to 16 steps, where it plays back steps randomly. So if we set it to 1 step, you should be able to see here on occasion steps lighting up. So that's basically the randomization, it's just playing back 1 step. And if you set it 4, you can see on occasion that it highlights 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, like it goes through 4 steps when it's playing back something randomly. So it goes through an interval of 4 steps. You can also set dice, which is basically the probability of playing back a step. So 80% means that we are only playing back a step 80% of the time. You can also use the D-pad to create rolls. And these can also be recorded into the sequencer. Something I should also mention is that if you press function here and this button here mute, go into the cassette. Here you can set different types of cassettes that will impact the sound. We can listen. So basically it makes it sound a little bit more lo-fi. And we can turn on the mixtape. That starts a recording onto the SD card, which records whatever is going on the device. Now, on my unit here, it's a little wonky, it's a little unclear exactly how it's supposed to work, but basically when I turn it on, it starts a recording and I can then take that recording from the SD card, but I'm not entirely sure how you stop it. I think that if you disable it, it should stop, but yeah, it's not working 100% with the current firmware, but from what I know, there's no other export functionality on the LOFI-12 XT, so you basically have to record it either using the cassette here or the outputs, or you can also do resampling internally if that's something you want to do. When a sampler can play back samples polyphonically, something I like to do is just add a MIDI keyboard to it. And here's a thought. Imagine if Sonicware would make like a keyboard version of this. Take the LOFI-12 XT, just put a keyboard on it like this or something and add maybe a couple of the synth engines from the ELC Play, and you'd have a really fun portable synth workstation. So here I have the keystep 37, and since I know that we have this synth sound here on track 2 is also MIDI channel 2. Oh, and I also noticed that if you go to sound here and you turn on arpeggiator and press pad, we can play the arpeggiator and the integrated arpeggiator here, and you can record it into the sequencer as well. This didn't sound that good. I'm just using the samples that I have loaded, but it gives you an idea of what's possible anyway. Like a lot of the music for my videos is very like improvised stuff that I just make on the fly. It's not very thought out. I like to do it that way because I think it gives you kind of an honest look at how it works. And I'm very conscious about the fact that we are very easily swayed by good music demos, thinking that a piece of gear will be the thing that takes our music to the next level. And that's, you know, often not the case. So last in today's video, I have a few teachers' notes that I want to go over, not that many, and I also want to answer the question if this is like the perfect hybrid between the sample track and the LOFI-12. And the answer is no, because this is definitely more LOFI-12 than sample track. Sample track kind of bit off a bit more than it can chew. So it's a live looper, it's kind of got workstation features. It has global tracks that you can use to record vocals or instruments on top of your clips, for example. This doesn't even have that kind of clip launcher that the sample track got. So it has very little of the sample track DNA in terms of its workflow. Now bear with me here. I have something important to say here. So the sample track was perhaps a little bit too advanced for this form factor. What do I mean by that? Well, I think that for what the sample track wanted to achieve, it had a bit too many advanced features that were also kind of hidden in menus and stuff like that, and it had a very small screen. It was kind of hard to navigate. The LOFI-12 XT is very simple to navigate because it has the different pages here. You can turn on a keyboard. Everything's just a bit more immediate than on the sample track. So I think that the LOFI-12 XT is actually the perfect kind of complexity for this form factor. I hope that makes sense. Underbara vinterland förändras, vet inte vad som händer, vad mina händer ska ta tag i nu, vad jag ska göra nu. Ja, mitt underbara vinterland förändras, vet inte vad som händer, vad mina händer ska ta tag i nu. Now a few quick notes. Firstly, in step edit there is no step length parameter that can just increase the length that a step is. You can program this, but there's no parameter for it, which would have been nice. There is also no quick octave up and down here for the keyboard mode. Instead you have to cycle through the notes here up and down the keyboard range. So a quick function and this button here to just go up and down an octave would have been nice. There's also almost no performance effects. You can use the stutter mode that I showed you before to live play. You can live play using the arpeggiator, for example. You can turn on and off the randomization for the patterns. These are things you could do live or just when you're jamming. And this is an area where the SP404 or the circuit rhythm has the LOFI-12 severely beaten. Lastly, something that I love to see is the ability to save a track preset. So what do I mean by that? Well, saving not only the sample, but all the settings for the sample, so I can just reload that as a preset. If I made a sound, I tweaked it, I have a lot of modulation set up that I like, and I want to bring that into another project, just being able to save that as a preset would be really nice. But overall, I think that this is a very fun lo-fi Groovebox. If you don't want that lo-fi sound, there's no way around it on this device. It just won't sound high definition. It will always sound lo-fi. So if that's something you like, then this is excellent. And if it's not something you like, there's so many different options out there. The SP404 Mark II, the Circuit Rhythm, the KO2, the Seek track, the MPC1, the Machina. Like there's so many different samplers out there. Even the Liven LOFI-12 could be an option. Even the Sample Trick could be an option. So let me know what you think about this down in the comment section. I hope you have a great day. Talk to you later.